What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday. Welcome back to the Gold Rush Weekly Watch List. Lots of events going on this week. Let's see. We have 8 Fed speakers this week. We also have a lot of earnings. We're in the middle of earnings season, right? So we have this week and next week with major names reporting earnings. We have an energy outlook catalyst tomorrow. We have 10-year note auction. We have jobless claims on Thursday. And we have consumer sentiment again on Friday. So lots of catalysts this week, especially with all the Fed speakers. We got some Fed speakers on Monday. Just looking through the economic calendar for the week. We got Kashkari on Tuesday, 10:30. On Wednesday, looks like a bunch of earnings for the most part. Thursday and Friday are pretty stacked with earnings, and then we have like monetary policy report coming from the Bank of England on Thursday morning, 8:00, and Goolsby on Friday at 12:45 p.m. So lots of activity this week, along with earnings. Lots of names reporting earnings this week. Just looking through the list, we got Palantir, we got ARM, Uber, Shopify, Disney, Rivian, Mara, SoundHound, Celsius, Upstart, Datadog, Win, TTD, Lyft, Lucid, Oxy reporting this week, BYND. Who else? Crocs is reporting this week. Nikola is reporting this week as well. So a lot of names, a lot of catalysts. I expect a lot of volatility this week with everything we got going on in the market. But let's get right into it. I do have just a few names that I want to look at. We're going to look at them on the weekly chart. The first one here is SPX. And I have my 50-day moving average in red and my 200-day moving average in black. And I just want to talk about, everything is going to be on a weekly, and everything's going to be with regard to the 50 and the 200 for the most part, right? To give just some very basic perspective on everything. I've been trading SPX, SPY, QQQ for the most part this past couple of weeks. Yes, I've been missing moves in other places, which some of you have been jumping into. But I'm happy with it. I'm looking to formulate a system for it, especially for SPX, and so that's where all my energy has been going. But SPX right now, we did have a nice little supply zone that formed here. I believe the supply zone formed on a 4-hour. And then it came back and retested it, formed on this week, came back and retested it on this week, and then dumped. And then we had an inside candle. And even this candlestick is still within the price action of this candle here. We're back above the February high, right? So this is February's high and February's low. I was targeting February's low for this move. And, my target hasn't changed. Even though we kind of inside bar and then broke up to the upside on FOMC, we're still just at about the 50-day moving average. So we might go sideways. We might go back and retest this high. We might even go back and retest this high. But ultimately, I think that at the end of the day, we're still going to head down. So my target for the most part is the low of February. So that's what I'm looking at for SPX. So that's why I keep a bearish stance for the most part. Anyone who's in the server knows what I'm talking about. I've been very bearish lately. That doesn't mean that we're not going to catch some of these bounces, right? That doesn't mean that we're not going to. Overall, though, I think that in the next 3 months, the market's going to work its way down back to this 200-day. We haven't been at the 200-day since back here in what month was this? Back in end of October, right? So I think we're due for a trip back to the 200-day moving average. So whether that's by going sideways and letting the 200 catch up, or going sideways a little bit and then pushing down into the 200. But we're definitely due for a trip back to the 200. The next ticker here is QQQ. Pretty much same thing. It's underneath the 50-day moving average, retesting it from the bottom. A little bit of sell pressure here. QQQ is going to be crucial. If tech, especially with all the earnings that have, Microsoft, Google, Apple have already completed their reports. Some of that's caused some of this upside move. FOMC's caused some of this upside move as well. If some of these companies don't continue to push up, and QQQ doesn't close above that weekly, the 50-day on the weekly, then I think that there's a strong potential that we push really, really hard back into this 200-day moving average. So I'll be watching QQQ as well as SPX, SPY, IWM, all for how they react on that 50-day moving average. The next one's IWM. Same thing. It kind of pushed up. IWM inside bar was a little bit cleaner, right? Little less compact. You see that price contracted and then expanded to the upside, and it broke above the third week, right? This is the first week, second week, and here's the third week. Let me change my crosshair color real quick. Let's change it to, yeah, that's cool. Right, so comparing it to like QQQ and SPY, SPX, this candlestick, we're still within this candlestick on QQQ, SPY, SPX, but IWM broke it to the upside, rejecting the 50-day moving average. So I'm interested to see what it's going to do with this 50-day around this price here. And same thing, I'm expecting it to push back a little bit and go back to that 200-day moving average on IWM. ES, right now, ES is currently forming a red candlestick at the range high, made a new high on the candlestick, and it might push down, but it won't matter until tomorrow morning at the end of the day. So XLE, energy right now is above the 50-day moving average. And for anybody that's just joining us now or anyone who's watching online, again, we're looking at weekly charts with comparison of the 50-day moving average, which is this red line, and this 200-day moving average, which is this black line. So just to give perspective. So let me turn my VWAP off. I don't need VWAP for this. The XLE price is currently sitting above the 50-day moving average. It looks like a bull flag. It looks like it's just kind of like slowly, some profit taking here. Strong red candle on this past week, but you see some buyers stepping in at the 50-day moving average. Also, these buyers here are stepping in where there was previous resistance, right? If you just look across previous resistance, every time price came back to this area, it rejected and went down each time, right? And then this time it's now testing it from the top. So we'll see if the resistance flips and becomes support, as well as that 50-day moving average that's sitting right there. So I'm very interested in XLE for this week. And then strong move up, good consolidation for almost 2 years. And now we finally broke out above that part. We're retesting it. So I think that there might be potential for this to push even higher, but we'll see. XLF is the next one. XLF, same thing. It's very, very, it's like right on top of its 50-day moving average. Price closed underneath the 50-day, but you see buyers stepping in here. So I want to see what these buyers are going to do. Are they going to take it higher? Are they going to retest? Are they going to take it higher and try to take some of these highs out? Or are they going to retest this low from 3 weeks ago? Right. So just interested to see what's going to happen. I think this is very, very close to the JP Morgan chart. And I think JP Morgan is driving a lot of this. I think banks are also done with their earnings. So it's just something interesting to keep note of. I want to see what XLF does. XLF does above this 50-day moving average. So let's see. Next one. First one on my list is NVIDIA. I don't have a lot today, right? Maybe 15 or so tickers. First one on the weekly is NVIDIA. NVIDIA is above its 50-day moving average. It flushed underneath it on this week, this nasty red week, and then gained all of it back, right? And now price came back and retested the 50-day moving average, and buyers stepped up and brought it right back and made a new high. We broke out of last week's high, made a new high. We're still within the candlestick. So, if I were to see this setup here on like a SPX, 5-minute or 10-minute, I would say this is extremely bullish. And SPX, the way that those charts usually work out is how charting usually works out. So that's why I like, that's why I like trading SPX, because you get price action in perspective at all times. So I think this is very bullish. I think with ARM reporting earnings this week, there's a potential for NVIDIA to really fly, right? And all we got to do is take above this pivot here at 907.39. Above that, we got 947. Above that, we got 974, which is all-time high. And then above that, we got 1,000, right? Which is just very, very within our reach, especially with all the buying pressure that you see in this area here. So I do like NVIDIA to the upside. I want to see how they react to ARM's earnings. NVIDIA also has earnings later on this month, on the 22nd of this month. So there could be a potential for a run-up, but not sure. Next one is Netflix. I'm loving how Netflix chart looks on a weekly. This pattern right here is a potential reversal pattern. You got the strong move down, you got the 2 down with a green candle, and you got a potential 2 up. Well, we do have a 2 up, right? Because this candlestick broke the range of this previous one. So my first target for this is going to be the 50-day moving average. Above the high of the week, straight to the 50-day moving average at 604. Above 604, we can obviously go back to target the high of the previous week here at 630 and 17 cents for Netflix. This chart's very, very nice, especially like strong push down, and then a little bit of consolidation on this candlestick, and then you see buying pressure bringing the price all the way back up. Very, very strong candlestick here. Next one's Costco. Loving this chart. We did get a nice strong move up with some gaps, right? A little bit of gaps here. Indecision here, but price continue to move to the upside. Lots of selling pressure at all-time high, and then good consolidation for about 6 weeks or so. With price finally breaking back above the 50-day moving average, price breaking above this high, and getting back into the range of this candlestick here. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for it to retest the high of that candlestick there. Above that, obviously, we have this one. And, I would like to split these in half. I'll probably put a line right there. Just as kind of like a halfway mark, right? But price has to break above the high of last week, which is 747 and 49 cents. Above that, we got 752, then we got 769 and 787. And then Costco, they just paid out their dividend. Let me see. I would look into maybe seeing what who this week reports earnings that might potentially catalyze Costco to make a move. Let me just take a quick look at the list. Palantir has earnings this week also. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I don't really see a lot of names that maybe I was gonna say maybe like Uber, maybe Shopify, but not really. They're so separate, so different. Yeah, there's not really anybody that I can tell from face value that's gonna move Costco, right? Costco isn't like a peer of any of those companies that are reporting this week, so nothing there. But anyway, I do like the price, the setup on the chart. Let me look at the daily on this real quick. Yeah, and then you just have like a nice, good consolidation, strong push down, good consolidation. Almost looks like a head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders here on the daily, right? You got one shoulder here, back to the neckline. You got the head. And then you got kind of like another shoulder here, a little bit of a higher low, and then price back to the neckline. So, and then for anyone who's not really interested in what the pattern is, but more what it means, price came down and retested some of these lows and is working its way higher. So buyers are taking control back. So that looks very, very nice on the daily. And then the weekly just looks, it just makes more sense now. So above this high, obviously 769 will probably come very quickly. Next one is Amazon. Let's see. I love Amazon for this strong push down and then buyer stepping in to bring price right back above the 50-day moving average. Right? They stepped in. All this wick is all buying pressure. And then same thing on this past week. It opened up, it gapped up, came down. Buyers brought it right back up and made a green candle. Took out, basically retested this level, retested the 50 and brought it right back up. So that's very, very bullish. If you look at it on the daily, it's basically kind of like flagging right there. And let's say this was Thursday, it would have been like this. Let's say it was Wednesday, it would have been like this, right? So you can see just very, very bullish behavior here. I do love this weekly. I think that if we hold the price, if we hold the level that we had on Friday, then we can work our way into making new highs, new 52-week highs for Amazon. So I'm very interested in that. Go back to the weekly. Next one is Coinbase. Coin is right now, it closed underneath its 50-day moving average. But you see how it opened up here right at the 50-day. It looks like it rejected the 50-day from the bottom and then pushed down. And then buyer stepped up and brought it right back up into the range of this candlestick. What that looks like to me, I mean, if we ignore that wick, let's just ignore that wick for 2 seconds. It looks like price is consolidating, right? That just looks like consolidation if we just ignore that wick, this wick right here. I just want to see what it looks like on the 60-minute real quick. On the 60-minute, it probably makes a little bit more sense. We had a lot of selling pressure, and then prices slowly getting higher and higher. We did flush down on this during this session here, strong flush to the downside, and then it brought it right back up. Buyers said, no, you know what? We don't like it down here. We want it back up here. So it's very, very interesting where buyers have brought it back up. It's actually very bullish. You see there was a little bit of a fight here where earnings sellers brought it back down, buyers brought it back up, sellers brought it back down, and then buyers, they kind of consolidated here, and then buyers kind of made a new high of day. So I'm interested in seeing what Coinbase is going to do this week. It is below its 50-day moving average. I think that it's going to go back to retest that 50-day moving average at some point. So definitely keeping that one on the chart. Next one is, and then just for some greater perspective, it's a very, very large cup and handle. Here's your cup, a little bit of a handle here, potential for a nice strong move, rip to 260 above that, 280 above that, 300. So I'm loving Coinbase this week. TSM. So last time we spoke about TSM, we had this area highlighted where you see there was a little bit of supply. Every time I would get to this area, it would push back down. Next time it got to it, push back down, strong push. And then you got inverse head and shoulders with higher lows and higher highs. Strong moves to the upside on the weeklies. We did make a new all-time high on this week, right? Am I right about that? Yeah, that's all-time high that we made on that week. And then every time there's an all-time high, usually things sell off a little bit. So it sold, went sideways, strong push down that 1 week that we had. And then nice recapitulation, came back, made a new high, back into that zone. So, as long as we stay within this area here between 140, 138, 145, I think we're in a good spot. Ideally, I want to see it retest the top of this level right here at 145.24, and then slowly work our way through this wick here, right? There's a lot of supply in this wick, so we slowly want to work our way through that wick. We don't want to we don't want to go rip through it, because then what's going to happen is next time we come down, it's going to fall right through it very quickly. You want to build some volume in that area. So I'm very interested in seeing TSM build some volume up at these levels, especially since it's holding the 50-day moving average and strong, very strong move on the weekly chart here. So very interested in TSM. Next one is DKS, and I just have a few more, guys. Probably like 6 more, 7 more, or 8 more. DKS, I believe this is all-time high for DKS. Yes. So it gave you a triple tap pretty much on this level at $149.30, and then it ripped, and it's never been back ever since, right? Strong move, especially on this week, and then it kind of pulled back, built some volume back in this week. It's almost as if sellers said, you know what, let's just renegotiate at these levels because this was too strong of a push. Came back to the 50-day moving average. I'm just comparing the highs of these two candlesticks. So this last week, 2 weeks ago rather, ripped above the high of this previous week, and now sellers brought it back down, bounced off to 50, and buyers are bringing it back up. So I just want to see how motivated these buyers are to bring price a little bit higher, right? You can see that there were some buyers interested here. Sellers took control again, but buyers came in and brought it off the 50-day moving average. So, ideally I want it above that $210.29 mark. And then above that, obviously, we're going to target some of these levels here. And I'll just put another 50% of the move right around there. So, right. So, 210.29, 217.36, 224.86 levels for DKS. Hopefully this weekend next, right? Hopefully we get a nice strong move out of it. They don't have earnings until the end of this month, Wednesday, May 22nd. So there's a potential for a run up there, but we want to make sure we get a good entry. We want to make sure that if we are trading it and we're holding weeklies or we're holding monthlies, that that we're positioned well from the very beginning. We don't want to get in and be red, which is why I haven't really been doing weeklies a lot. I mean, swinging monthlies a lot for the most part. I like to see green and take it and be done with it and sleep nicely at night, right? So next one is JP Morgan. JP Morgan, yeah. So JP Morgan new all-time high, and then strong rip down. Indecision candle. JP Morgan actually looks like it's 1 week ahead of SPX, right? It almost looks like it's 1 week ahead of SPX. This week would have been a red week for SPX, right? And then we had that kind of like downside, and then strong push down, reversal 2 candle, then 2 up, and then inside bar. All right, let's look at SPX real quick. That's interesting. We had the 3 week, 3 strong moves down, and then reversal, and then the next bar still inside the range of the bigger bar. Right, so it's like almost like a week ahead in price action. I find that very interesting. And then another thing is JPM is above the 50-day moving average, whereas SPX is still just currently slightly below the 50-day moving average. So I want to see what happens at that 50. That's really what all of these charts have in common, is that they have an interesting relationship with the 50-day moving average. Now, JP Morgan looks very interesting on a daily chart, only because you see this big gap down that occurred based on earnings. They did beat, but but everyone wanted the price to come down a little bit lower, so it did. And now prices come back up, gapped up a little bit, kind of expanding to the upside, expanding to the downside. I see a little bit of a broadening formation forming here. Right, I see price kind of like working its way up and coming and working its way down. So, but for the most part, we've kind of filled this gap. There might be a little bit of volume that we can fill up here. Price came down and kind of refilled this gap from this gap up right here. Lots of buying pressure, and it's just at the 50-day moving average. So I'm very interested to see what it's going to look like starting this week. Right, this can go in either direction. It looks like it's a battleground right now, especially on that daily. Lots of wicks on both sides. Even though price is trending, it's been trending upward, it's been trending downward. Lots of wicks on both sides. Strong push down, but it's above that 50. It's trying, looks like buyers want to back above the 50. So that's what I'm looking for with JP Morgan. Next one is DocuSign. Just for some perspective, let's zoom out on DocuSign. Right, this is what DocuSign looks like on the larger time frame. We're talking 2019, pre-COVID, strong move up during COVID, and then strong push down when everything came back to like regular levels. So price is still way down here, and I'm not trying to say anything about that. I just want you to know, just for some perspective, we're not near all-time highs or anything. We're not even halfway through the chart. We're at the bottom. Right, if I were to zoom all the way out, we're just like, it IPO'd. What did it open at? It opened at 38. Right now it's at 59, so it's almost double. Right, it's like maybe 80% higher than IPO. It's very, very high. It came down and actually swept IPO lows. Strong push up, came back, bounced off the 200-day moving average, and then now it's kind of testing that 50-day. And realistically, I think that at first glance you look at this and you say, "Oh, all right, cool. You got this falling resistance line." But to me, what makes more sense to me is we got this right here. We got some pivots to take out. And that's it. Very simple, right? We got some pivots to take out. Actually, I could bring this one all the way over here. I think that DocuSign, now, my company uses them. We're a client of theirs, and their service is okay, whatever. Like, it's very simple. To me, it's very simple, and I don't understand like how they plan to grow. And maybe I should read more into their plan and stuff like that. But I think that, if anyone knows, please share with us. But I think that, just looking at this chart on the technical, strong push down. You see a lot of buyers and sellers they are constantly battling here on these charts. You see lots of wicks on the top and bottom of these. That means that buyers and sellers are very, very active in this. Strong push up on earnings, came back down, redid the move again, right? Like, it looks like almost like an upside H or a bull flag. And then 2 weeks, kind of like going sideways, strong push down, held on the 200-day moving average, kind of a cup and handle forming here, right? So I have a feeling it's going to go back to retest that 64.71 level. It came back and retested it on this week and on this week. I think if buyers want it, they can really bring it back up this next couple of weeks. So very interested in DocuSign. Tesla, I have Tesla, and you have a handful. So Tesla, zoom out a little bit. Let's see. I haven't looked at this chart in a while. I mean, I have my levels, but I haven't looked at it after earnings. All right, so little consolidation, strong move up, came back, retested this area, strong move up, came back, retested, strong move up. This looks like a demand zone right here, which means buyers are interested in bringing it up at this level. So it came and entered it here and it bounced again. Now, this bounce here was an earnings bounce. Earnings was the cause of this move up. Now, I don't know. They said that they opened up their market in, I believe, in China, or I believe that they're able to like collect data for their full self-driving using the cars that they sold in China. I think that's what it was. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. And so what that does for their business is it makes it cheaper for them to collect the data because the data is already, the cars are already on the road. And then they almost like double or triple the amount of cars that they can collect data from, which is going to make their technology just, it's going to learn so much faster. So it's not an exaggerated jump. That's like, especially like people who buy into Tesla aren't buying it because it's a car company. They're buying it because they know the technological implications of a company such as Tesla. So let me go ahead and paint this a different color. So I don't think that this is like an exaggerated bounce. I think it's justified. I think, I don't know. I really don't know. Like, I can't form an opinion here with them. I own Tesla shares. I'm not happy right now with my Tesla shares because they're pretty, and I've been buying and it's fine. Like, I got to buy this price, whatever, cool. But like, Tesla used to do this. This is what people own Tesla for, with the strength of the company and the strength of the technology and stuff. And now it's just kind of like, I'm not losing faith because I still think the technology is great. It just sucks to hold their shares. But anyway, we're above the 50-day moving average for the first time in a couple of months, right? Last time we were above the 50, we were back here in November. And we've basically just been going alongside the 50 this whole time. So now we're at a level where we're above the 50. We might hold here for a couple of weeks. The 200-day is right there. So now there's an opportunity here for the 50 to retake the 200-day moving average if price goes up. So price needs to go up, bring the 50 with it, and then it'll cross through the 200-day moving average. I don't know if that's going to happen. I do not know if that's going to happen. We have the high of week here, 198.87, and then we got the 200-day right there, like 220 and change, right? But then we got the 50 here at 176. And then we got the bottom of the channel here at 145. So I don't know what's going to happen with Tesla. It looks like it's in flux this week. Let's see what happens this coming week. I don't know if there's anyone who's reporting this week who will be a catalyst for Tesla to move. Maybe ARM, right? Maybe ARM, maybe Uber. Also, I know that Tesla, they were talking about something about their robo-taxi fleet finally. So I think Uber might be something to be interested in with that. Lyft might be something to be interested. Rivian might be something that might move Tesla. Nikola might be something that might move Tesla. So there's a few things going on this week that may potentially catalyze a move in Tesla. So I'll be interested to see what Tesla does in reaction to some of these other earnings this week. MU is sitting near all-time highs. Strong push down in the past couple of weeks. Same thing, strong push down, bounce, and then kind of like inside bar break to the upside. Above the 50-day moving average. So it's very, it just looks very bullish after that strong push down. So I would like to see it above 116, testing 120, above 120. We got 124.78 for MU. Underneath that, we got the 50. I wouldn't really go further than the 50. Every time it gets to the 50, it likes to move up. It did it back here, bounced from here, kind of like went around it, tried it again, came around it, tried it again, same thing over here. And then finally, ever since, kind of like this move here back in November, it's been bouncing above the 50 ever since. So I think that trend's going to stay for a little while. And MU, I would look at for ARM earnings this week, see how they react to ARM. Apple. So Apple reported last week. They slowed their rate of growth, has slowed down. I think they also, I think, sold less iPhones than anticipated for the first time, I think, in the history of the iPhone, which is insane. And then we also got Warren Buffett decreased his position. I don't know if it's his position or his contribution. I think it's his contribution to Apple by 13%. So, but what that means is, he's buying it. I don't know what his schedule is. I don't know if it's monthly. I don't know if it's quarterly. I don't know if it's weekly. I don't know if it's daily, but he buys Apple all the time. And he just decreased the amount that he's using to buy by 13%. So let's say he bought $100,000 worth of Apple every day. Now he's buying $77,000 worth of Apple every day, for example. Terrible example. I don't know if those are the actual numbers, but so those are some happenings with Apple. I didn't need to put that line there. I want to see what's going on with them in the news real quick. Oh, and they reported a buyback, which is why I think the strong push up, because buybacks usually tend to create big moves like that. So let's look at it on the daily real quick. Strong gap up on earnings, found some resistance where there was previous support. If you look all the way to your left on the screen, little support, came back, found resistance at that level. We have the 200-day moving average right there. So really, we need that 200-day to hold. We really just need that 200-day to hold in order for Apple to remain bullish. Apple has not been bullish for quite some time. So, ever since we kind of like made this high here, we've been falling, making lower highs and lower lows. This is the first time we made a smaller term higher high, but this high is still lower than all of these highs. So we could still just be in a downtrend. So it really depends on what it's going to do with this 200-day moving average. So I would just keep in mind if you're interested in Apple. Google's sitting at all-time high, I believe. Let me just double check. Yep, all-time high. We kind of consolidated at this level, fell pretty hard on the Gemini news, bounced, and then strong moves to the upside, little inside bar, continuation, almost like a 3-bar play. And then we have another kind of like strong push up, inside bar with some buying pressure sitting here, maybe potential for a continuation move up into $180 for Google. Google's well above its 50-day, well above its 200-day. They're both facing the right direction. So I'm looking for a continuation, but I want to see what it does at the highs and lows of this week for Google. And then Baidu. I think I have like 2 more, and then whatever you guys want to look at. Yeah, I got Baidu, Disney, AMD. So with Baidu, I mean, again, perspective, we're way down here, but zooming into it, I think there's a potential for a nice move. Baidu's trading at $113, which is a great price to trade because a 10% move is $13. It can do a 10% move in a day, and $13 on contracts, on options contracts, gives you a lot of money. So I think that we break above this high. We test the 200-day moving average here at $118 or so. Then we got this pivot at 120, and then we got this next pivot at 126. So interesting spot for Baidu. I do like it. It almost looks like, it looks like it wants to kind of turn around here, taking out these highs. But I need to see higher. I need to see it above that 200-day in order for me to be convinced. Right? So that's Baidu. Next one is Disney. I'm just interested in Disney. We had like kind of a inside bar breakdown to the downside, and buyers brought it back up. I see that wick came down lower than the previous week. Buyers brought it right back up. It's sitting right at that 50-day moving average. So I want to see if it can break above the 50-day moving average, and then there's a potential pivot machine gun here. Perspective, we're way down here, but it does look very nice. Strong push, good consolidation, strong push on the golden cross, bull flag, strong push. Same thing. This here looks to me just like this, right? It looks like it's just slowing. It's slowing down before it turns around, right? Slowing down. These 3 candles were accelerated. This one's slower, a little buying pressure. Now it looks like it wants to turn around. So interested in Disney. I want to see it above 114.24 before I get very interested in it. AMD is my last one, and then we'll go through it. I actually want to look at AMC and GME too. The reason why I have AMD on this chart is, real quick, look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA, new high, and then kind of like retested it. Down candle, down candle, down candle. The candle right after that last big candle kind of undid all of it, and then this next candle kind of finished the job, right? We need to form one more candle to kind of work our way back up into this area here. AMD looks very different. AMD is showing no strength whatsoever in all this time, right? I was hoping for it to find some support in this level, but it almost looks like it wants to come back and retest that level as resistance. This level here is resistance before going to maybe the 200-day moving average. So AMD is a little bit decoupled. from the rest of, MU looks different, TSM looks different. AMD is showing weakness right now. So if you see AMD, you see TSM, or sorry, NVIDIA, TSM, MU, ARM, you see all of them kind of working their way up and making new highs. If AMD is going sideways, I would absolutely get into some AMDs like 3 months out. Because if everything else is moving sideways, this is due for a nice strong run. Now, I would love for this setup here to get invalidated, for it to not test this previous resistance, or previous support rather, and fall. I wanted to break above that previous support. I wanted to break above that 50-day moving average. I wanted to get into some of these levels, take out that pivot machine gun and do what you got to do with it. But right now, AMD is showing a little bit of weakness. So just something to keep in mind, especially with ARM and then NVIDIA coming up in a couple of weeks. AMD doesn't report next until it looks like August or July, end of July. So we got quite some time. But any of these companies can catalyze AMD to move up. And if everything's moving up and AMD isn't, then maybe buy some AMD while it's cheap, in order to capitalize on a move. Let's look at AMC. AMC. I think it seems like, let me just look here. Excuse me. June 20 calls are 5 cents. So straight up lotto play. The reason why I think we're talking about AMC and looking at AMC is because of what happened with GME this week. Now, before I get off this chart, there's nothing on this chart that tells me that it's going to move up. So this is, we have a little bit of a gap here, which is nice. This is like a straight up, like, all right, let me just dump some money into this, and it might move. And if it does, then you sell, right? This is what happened with GME. Let's look at the daily on GME. It's been kind of wrestling with the 50 a bunch, moved up a little bit here, got back down, made a new, swept the lows, made a new low, came as low here as, what was the low? $9.95. What about over here? Yeah, so $9.95 was the lowest of this kind of swing right here, and a bunch of volume pushed in to GME this past couple of weeks. Almost like alarming, right? Because it went from a low of $12 to a high of $17, which GME hasn't done in a while. Put in a big candle such as this one, right? And obviously, anyone who's been trading with us for sure knows, and then trading for a while also just for sure knows what kind of crazy moves GME is capable of. So, right, like insane moves, like going from $5 to, a couple months later trading at, $120, $100, whatever the case is. So AMC can be a potential for that. If GME starts moving, the memes start moving again, then yeah, AMC can do the same, right? AMC can do the same. So I think you buy those contracts, those $20 calls for June. They're $5. If my experience with, if you're playing memes, go ahead and just put a bunch of time on it. Buy a bunch, buy enough that you're willing to lose. Don't buy any more. Don't gamble more than that, right? Like usually, like if I like to gamble, it's because I'm profitable. I gamble on some zero DTEs on Friday, I think it was, or on Thursday rather, and because I was profitable for the week, so I'm like, whatever, I'll just use some of my profit. If I lose it, I'm still up for the week. That's how you got to treat these. And with calls expiring in June, which is June 21, which is about 6 weeks out, you have more than enough time for a move to happen, especially if AMC is going to follow GME's lead. But again, it can all go to zero, so don't take your life savings out on it. Let's look at BBY real quick, just because they all have kind of like the same vibe. Yeah, I mean, there's not much going on here. Let's look at the 4 hour. Yeah, I mean, not much going on here. It's breaking above its 50-day moving average, or sorry, its 200-day moving average. Just want to look at AMC, see if it moved in the after hours. Yeah, I mean, it did move a little bit in the after hours. It closed at, what did it close at? It closed at $3, and now it went up 10 cents. So, so decent move, right? Decent move. But again, this is like a $3. The stock is $3. Like, you really need it to move in order to make money. Especially with it being 6 weeks out, you needed to make like just a squeezy move one day, right? Get from $3 up to $8, and then when people start rushing into it, you just take the money out. You're basically making money on an IV pump because you're not making money on the option like that. But anyway, that's it, guys. Let's look at Oxy real quick since they report earnings this week. Yeah, so Oxy, just like the rest of kind of XLE, pulled back to its 50-day moving average. Let's look at XOM real quick. Yeah, XOM strong bounce off the 50-day moving average. I would probably be interested in looking at XOM for this week, especially with Oxy earnings. You don't want to get trapped up in IV crush, so maybe XOM calls or puts in order to capitalize on the Oxy move. I mean, winter time, you start to capture some of that. Maybe people were buying oil or whatever the case is for their homes. But there was a decrease in earnings on XOM, so it's very interesting. All right, guys, that's it for me. Thank you for being with me tonight. Didn't want to go too long just because there's not really much that we can do with most of the market going through earnings. But I'm actually happy to see Apple back on my watch list. I'm happy to see Tesla back on my watch list. I'm sure there's a bunch of others that I missed, but there are some really, really good setups here. And so hopefully we can capitalize on this week. But yeah, thank you guys so much for being here, and I will see you tomorrow at 9:30. And hopefully you guys have a good night. Get some rest.